Hello, welcome to another work together. Today we're going to make this. I know it looks like a frame, but it really is a shadow box. You can see in there we've got the box and then the frame. And I also have made mine interactive. So it has a little tiny mini album or a little tiny mini book right in the pocket of it, so that when this person hangs it up, if they want to see more pictures that came from this photo shoot, all they have to do is open it up and they can see them. I also decorated it quite extensively on the side here. There's lots and lots of flowers. I hid some flowers down into that corner because you can kind of see them poking out when it's hanging up. I know you can't, kind of from your angle, you can't really see them, but they're in there. And it's just a little soft, little subtle touch, you know. And then put some pearls, and I put some bigger pearls, just stuck them in by the flowers. And I colored the flowers to match the paper that I used. And the paper that I used is from, what is this? This is My Mind's Eye. This is a paper pad of My Mind's Eye, all the collections. It's not really cardstock, so it's a little harder to use, but it works really good for something like this where you're just covering something, you know. Alright, so let's go. We're going to make ours also. This one is made with chipboard and paper covering it and holding it together. I decided that I wanted to make something that was a little bit simpler to show you how to make it. So we're going to make ours with a few less steps out of, this is poster board. And the reason I'm using poster board is because it's a little bit thicker than cardstock, but it's still sturdy enough to hold up into the shape of a box. And also, I can still score it. So that will alleviate a couple of the steps that we need to do to make this one. So we're going to start off by scoring our paper. Now, the box that I made, this one here is 4.5 by 6.5. And the finished size, once the frame is on there, is 8.5 by 6.5, because this adds a little more to it. Makes it a little bit bigger. So making it the way that we're going to make it, you have the ability to extend it a little bit more. Making it with the chipboard, you can make it pretty much any size you want to. As long as you have a bottom piece of chipboard that is as big as you want it to be, you can make it any size you want. With this, doing it this way, we are kind of limited to the size paper that we have, so the size of paper that we have, and we have a 12 by 12. It still gives you enough room to make a fairly large sized one. For now, we're going to make this size because it's easy to work with, and it just takes 4 by 6 photos, so it's nice and easy to put a photo in it as well, right? So the first thing I'm working with a 12 by 12 piece of paper, but that doesn't really matter because in the end we're going to cut some of it off. So the measurement the measurement of the piece of paper that we're going to use is going to be 9.5 by 7 by 7.5, I believe. Okay, so our first score mark is going to be at 1/4 inch, and it's not really, it's a little bit more complicated to score it, so you just have to use your patience and press hard. The next score mark is at 1.5 inches. Okay, then this is the part where you would determine how big you want yours to be. So I want mine to be 6.5, so I'm going to go over 6.5, but you could go, like, say you wanted to make an 8-inch one. You could go over to 8 inches. You need at least 1.5 inches still on this side. So 11 to 10, 9.5 is about, no, that's not right. This is 12. You need 1.5 inches. So yeah, 10.5, which would give you a 9-inch box. That's about as big as you can go with what we have to work with. Okay. You could make your box less deep if you wanted to. 1 inch is pretty good. It's a good depth, I think, to give you something to work with, you know. Anyways, so we're going to make ours at the 6.5. So I'm going to score at 8, which gives me 6.5 inches from my last score mark. So I'm scoring all the way down at the 8. Then I'm going to score at 9. And then I'm going to score at 9.5. And then I'm actually going to cut it at 9.5 as well. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it. And I'm going to score it at half an inch. Whoops. The paper doesn't want to cooperate here. There we go. Score it there. And then 1.5. Okay. And then this one is 4.5 inches. So this time we're going to score it at 6. 7 and 7.5, and then I'm actually going to cut at the 7.5. So let me give you those measurements again one more time. Half an inch, 1.5 inches, 6, 7, 7.5. Then we turn it, and half an inch, 1.5, 8 inches, 9 inches, and 9.5. Okay, and you don't have to do the 9.5 if you pre-cut it. Now we're done with the scoreboard. We don't need this anymore. So you can go ahead and put that away. Grab out your trimmer. Excuse my dog barking. And cut it at your 7.5 inch mark and your 9.5 inch mark. Because you don't need those pieces. Okay. Now, at the same time, if you want to cut your piece for your frame, you're going to cut it at, actually, you have to decide if you want how the width of your frame. Like mine here, this is 1.5 inches, okay? I chose 1.5 inches because I knew I wanted to put a lot of flowers on it. I wanted to put this little book on it too, so I needed something substantial to put it onto. Now you could just have yours be just 1 inch if you wanted to. That looks nice too if you want it to be simple, just a little tiny border. I'm making mine 1.5 inches again. So what you need to do then is you need to cut your paper. If you want 1 inch border, cut your paper to 5.5 by 7.5. And then you measure all the way around on the inside 1 inch and cut out the square so you have 1 inch left, okay? And you'll see what I mean when I do mine. If you're doing a 1.5 inch border, then you need to cut your paper to 8.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And if you're using this chipboard and you're going to put, or this poster board, and you're going to put a lot of stuff onto it, you may want to double it up so that you have a little bit of a thicker piece of paper or a piece of frame to work with, okay? I went ahead and doubled mine up, and I made mine already. So this is 2 pieces of the poster board, and that makes it a little bit sturdier, okay? This is the 1.5 inch border, so this is cut to 8.5 by 6.5 with the inside removed. All I did is I measure over 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, draw a line, and then I remove the inside. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to do. So but it takes a little bit, so I had to pre-do mine. And because I had to glue it together, I had to pre-do it. Okay? So once that's done, you have your frame and you have this. Now we're going to do some cutting on this piece right here. Okay? So we're going to start in the corners. All of our cutting is in the corners. Okay? You're going to see we have a 1/2 inch and then we have the 1 inch. Okay? So we're going to take and we're going to cut at on the score mark past the 1/2 inch up to the 1.5 inch mark, okay? And then we're going to do the same thing on this side of it. Make it nice and simple. Okay, and then we're going to cut this 1/2 inch side off. Essentially what we're removing is a tiny square that's scored here, and then a rectangle. Okay, that's what we removed there. Then we're going to remove the rectangle here, and what that leaves us with is the square, and this is going to become our tab that we use to create the box. And then all I did was remove a little bit off the corner, or off the edges, just sort of angled it a little bit, which will help it to go together better. And then I angle the 1/2 inch marks as well, or the 1/2 inch tabs there. Okay, so let's come over here and we'll do the same thing again. We're going to cut past the 1/2 inch score mark and stop at the 1.5 inch score mark. Same thing here, past the 1/2 inch and stop at the 1.5 inch. Then we're going to cut this one off, okay, and then we're going to remove that, and this is what we're left with. Then we angle this, and we angle this, and then we just kind of remove a little bit of the square tab here. So we have, that's what we have right now on the bottom part of our box. Okay, so we're going to turn it all the way around, and we're going to cut up past the first score mark and stop at the second score mark. Same thing here, past the first score mark, stop at the second. Remove this, remove this rectangle, and then angle our square. If you start to see that your box isn't lining up right, it might be because your squares are not angled. Sometimes the little, if it's just off a little bit in the cutting, it will affect the way that your box comes together. Okay, so now we have that. And now we're going to do the last one. Past the first score mark, stop at the second. Past the first score mark and stop at the second. Then we cut that rectangle off and that rectangle off. Angle those corners. Angle that one and that one. And now this is what we're left with. Okay? Now what we want to do is fold these up, and I am only going to crease them with my hands. I'm not going to crease them with the bone folder because this poster board tends to crack. I don't want it to crack, and it doesn't matter if it's perfectly creased because all it's going to do is be a box, so it's not going to fold any more than that, so it doesn't need to be perfectly creased. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and crease these little 1/2 inch flaps on the top of my pages there. Okay, then I'm going to turn it over so that all of the folds are down so that it wants to pop up like that. Okay, and then this is where we want to apply the adhesive. Now, unless you have a backed adhesive, an adhesive where you have to peel the back off of, you want to apply all of your adhesive now, because if you have to use something like this, it's going to be a lot harder once it is together, unless you're using a wet glue. If you use a wet glue, then that's fine too. So what you want to do is put your adhesive down on your tabs and your 1/2 inch flaps. Okay. My 1/2 inch flap and my tab, my 1/2 inch flap and my tab. Okay, so now all of the pieces that need to be adhered they have adhesive on them. Okay, what we're going to start off with is just these little tabs. What we want to do is bring your box together and line up the edges there. Line up your corners. Okay? Just like that. We bring them together and line them up. Just like that. And now this is what you have. Your box is put together, essentially. Make sure that those are really adhered. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold these flaps in. Kind of help press them. And you can help them stay in their position by kind of sticking them to each other if you have your adhesive down far enough on to your edge. Okay? And then you can see what we have there is kind of like a lip, essentially. Okay? If they don't stick together, that's fine. But what you have is a lip around your box. Okay? Then you're going to take your frame and you want to place it on here very carefully because you do not want any of the tabs to come out to show through your opening, okay? So when you're done, that's what it looks like. I did forget to say that if it might be a little bit easier for you if you put your picture in first, especially for this picture. I put this picture here up on foam dots to give it a little bit of a dimension away from the back of it. You can't really tell from looking at it straight on, but it just added a little something, I thought. But you want to put your picture in. I mean, you can always try to slide it in now, but it will be easier if you put your picture in first. And also what you could do is before you attach this frame part, you could take, if you wanted your picture protected, take a sheet of page protector, put it on the underside of your frame, and then your frame will be protected. Now, you can't do that if you want to put stuff inside of it, unless you're going to keep your stuff inside. Like here, I have this little pearl here, which is actually coming out from the inside. I don't know if you can see that, but it's inside the box, but it's coming out of the box. Can you see that? So I couldn't have a page protector on here if I wanted to do that. Okay? So anyways, here is your finished project. I hope you like it. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me. I will try my best to answer them. And I will talk to you all again soon.